There will be a Zoom social hour as well after the service. And now we'll begin our service.
The life of human beings does not exist only with activities that have some thing for their object. I perceive something, I feel something, I think something, yes. But the life of human beings does not consist of this alone. Things establish the realm of it, but the realm of thou has a different basis. When thou is spoken, there is no thing. When thou is spoken, the speaker takes his or her or their stand in relation. This primary word, I and thou together, can only be spoken with your whole being. If you speak this word, you may withhold nothing of yourself.
I invite everyone to rise in body or spirit for our chalice lighting. For all of our hymns, we are still asking those of you in the Great Hall to refrain from singing, but I hope you will hum gently or sing quietly. And those of you online, please sing aloud for everyone here. We light our chalice as a beacon of hope, a sign of our quest for truth and meaning. We light our chalice as a beacon of love in celebration of the life we share together.
Every man, boy,
Our book today is called I Am You, a book about Ubuntu, by Refaloe Moaloli and illustrated by Zenelda McDonald. The word Ubuntu comes from the languages of Zulu and Nkosa and roughly translates as, I am because you are. Ubuntu was a major influence on the great South African religious and political leader Desmond Tutu, who once said about Ubuntu, it means a person is a person through other persons. As you'll see, this book has just a few simple words, but they are powerful. I Am You, a book about Ubuntu. When I look into your eyes, I see myself. I am you. When I look into your eyes, I see your heart. I embrace you. When I look into your eyes, I see your beauty. I love you, and because I love you, I love myself. When I smile as our eyes meet, when I hug you as I say hello, when I share what little I have with you, and when I walk home with you after school. I love you, and I love myself too. When I listen as you tell me your stories, when I dance as I see you dance, when I laugh as I hear you laugh, when I hold your hand as you cry, I love you, and I love myself too. We may look different, you and I, sound different. Ons is een, Semunye, Remoho. We are one. Act different. Eat different food, and live in different places. But our hearts beat the same. I am you. To hurt myself, to hurt you, is to hurt myself. To tease you is to tease myself. To ignore you is to ignore myself. I am you. To care for you is to care for myself. To be gentle with you is to be gentle with myself. To be kind to you is to be kind to myself. I am you, and you are me. I am because we are one. And now, please rise in body or spirit and join in singing hymn number 311 in the gray hymnal, Let It Be a Dance. Number 311.
Let it be a dance. let us sing. Let it be a dance. Let it be a dance. Let your body learn to bend. And like a willow with the wind. Let it be a dance. Let it be a dance. Let it be a dance. A child is born, the old must die. A time for joy, a time to cry. Take it as it passes by. Let it be a dance. Morning star comes out at night. Without the dark there is no light. If nothing's wrong, then nothing's right. Let it be a dance. Let it be a dance. Let it be a dance. Let the sunshine, let it rain. Share the laughter, bear the pain. And round we go again. Let it be a dance.
And now it's time for us to greet one another. If you're on Zoom, we invite you to turn on your videos, wave, and please say hello in the chat. It's helpful to switch to gallery view. Anyone online or here in person who is new or new-ish, if you'd like to, please say hello in the chat and tell us where you're from. And everyone here in the Great Hall, feel free to stand up, wave, say hi. Hi, Peggy. Oh, Michael. Hope you're feeling better, Michael. Sherry, hello. Gail and John. Amy, hi. Bill, Sydney, hello. Gil and Evelyn.
Amy's in Florida for the
Carl.
winter.
Hey, Christine DeYoung. Liz. Oh, my sister Christine Amabile. Hello. Kathy Lilly. Julie. Amy Landau says, not this Amy. Gail, hello. Kim, Janet, Paul, and Wally. Hi. We have any more chat messages? Let's see what we've got. Oh, Amy is in Florida for the winter. Amy Slatka. That's okay, Gail. We don't want you to unmute right now. Okay. Thank you, everyone. That was fun. It's been great to see everybody. Please remember to turn off your videos, those of you online. And now it's time for everyone going to religious education activities to leave us. Please join in humming or singing them out.
Now in peace, go now in peace. May the spirit of love surround you everywhere you may go. Go now in peace, go now in peace. May the spirit of love surround you.
Nobody can see this. Nobody can see that.
Oh,
You're not supposed to unmute.
this is the Social Justice Minute, which recognizes that our religion calls us powerfully to action on social justice and the environment. The headline to this Social Justice Minute is Bring a Friend to Save Democracy. Many of you know about the Movement Voter Project, or MVP, and how exceptional they are. They are masterful in the way they turn out the vote in swing states and build grassroots capacity. That's why USNF The Vote is asking you to bring a friend to save democracy. For every person who comes to our March 27th Movement Voter Project Zoom house party, an anonymous donor will give $10 to MVP. So please come, bring a friend if you can. We want to do all we can to spread the word about the Movement Voter Project. And beyond giving money to MVP, we want to up our game to help them build their capacity. They build the capacity of community organizations. We want to build their capacity so they can do a lot more of that. We'll be talking about how we can do that on March 27th. The house party will be on Zoom on Sunday evening, March 27th, 7 to 8 p.m. We published the registration link and a 2-minute video in this week's Sunday Times, and that'll be in next week's Sunday Times too. But to make it easy for you, Amanda, please put the registration link into the chat now. And to know it's the correct link, it should have the words Mobilize Us MVP event in the middle of the link. And also, Amanda, please put into chat this link to a great 2-minute video that tells the MVP story. So, even if you think you know all about MVP, take the time to see this video. You won't regret it. And we hope to see you on March 27th. Thank you.
Our generosity makes everything we do possible, and it helps us support organizations and movements in the greater community. Half of the proceeds of each week's offering support the Society's operating budget, and half are shared outside our walls. You can mail in a check or donate online. The link is in the chat. If you are here with us in the Great Hall, you may also put cash or a check in the offering plate here on the chancel after the service. Thank you. And now we'll listen to the offertory music.
Broken windows and empty hallways, a pale dead moon and a sky streaked with gray. Human kindness is overflowing, and I think it's gonna rain today. Scarecrows dressed in the latest styles, with frozen smiles to chase love away. Human kindness is overflowing, and I think it's gonna rain today. think I'll kick it down the street. That's no way to treat a friend. Bright before me, the skies implore me, help the needy and show them the way. Human kindness is overflowing, and I think it's gonna rain today. I think it's gonna rain today.
Our meditation today is simply a focus on 5 of our UU principles, the ones most relevant to today's service. So let's meditate together on how to make these principles more than just words. And since 5 is a big number, as I read them, you can pick 1 or 2 to meditate on. We covenant to affirm and promote 1, the inherent worth and dignity of every person. 5, the right of conscience and the use of the democratic process. 6, the goal of world community with peace, liberty, and justice for all. 7, respect for the interdependent web of all existence. 8, building a diverse, multicultural, beloved community. So Ed Olmsted just told me that in the hall we can sing quietly now. The transition team made that decision. So. Okay, our reading is from Thich Nhat Hanh's interpretation of the Heart Sutra, an important Buddhist text. The earth is our mother. We have a great many stems linking us to our Mother Earth. There is a stem linking us with a cloud. If there is no cloud, there is no water for us to drink. This is also the case with the river, the forest, the logger, and everything else that came together to make the paper that this is written on. There are hundreds of thousands of stems linking us to everything in the cosmos, and therefore we can be. If you are not there, I am not here. That is certain. So you see, there are many lessons we can learn from the cloud, the river, the forest, and from each person you truly encounter. And now, please rise in body or spirit and join in singing hymn number 155 in the great hymnal, Circle Round for Freedom. Our first UU principle calls us to affirm and promote the inherent worth and dignity of every person. But what if you think they are so different from you that you can't begin to relate to them? What if you've never spoken to anyone like them or don't know anyone like them? Taking it to the extreme, what if you think they're vile, hateful, and out to destroy our country? Here's another set of questions related to today's readings. What did the philosopher Martin Buber mean in his book, I and Thou, when he said, when thou is spoken, there is no thing? What did the Buddhist teacher Thich Nhat Hanh mean when he said, if you are not there, I am not here, that is certain? What did the religious and political leader Desmond Tutu mean when he said, a person is a person through other persons? And what do their teachings have to do with that first set of questions? Well, these questions are all connected, and we're going to explore them through 3 personal stories. I'll tell 2, Teresa 1, and then we'll tie them all together. The first story takes place in 1971 when I was 24 and living on a farm commune in Arkansas. Since we needed money to buy what we couldn't raise ourselves, I worked in a sawmill during the winter. I carpooled to the mill with a neighbor, Tommy Moran. Tommy was different from me in many ways. He was about a foot taller, 100 pounds heavier, grew up where the nearest town was 2,000 people. I grew up in New York City. His mom and dad were evangelical Christians. I grew up Jewish. He thought hippies were crazy and dangerous, and I was one. We didn't talk much at first, driving to the mill. After a couple of weeks, Tommy started to talk more. A lot of what he said let me know what he thought of hippies, Jews, and people from New York. Well, finally, I'd had enough, so that night by the wood stove, I asked Mary to cut my hair, and I shaved my big, bushy beard completely off. When Tommy opened the door to my pickup the next morning, he burst out laughing, and so did I. After we stopped laughing, I said, "Hey, Tommy, I'm just a guy just like you." I remember a big grin on his face. That day, Tommy showed me his job at the mill, told me he was tired of doing it, he was ready to take on another if he could get it, and "Hey, Dave, why don't you give this job a try?" And over the next weeks, until planting season came around, Tommy gave me lots of tips about how to get along in the mill. We talked a lot about the Allman Brothers, the best baseball players. During spring and summer, Tommy and his brother came over, had dinner with us. He invited me to his house, and we became friends. The second story begins a few days after hearing the results of the 2020 presidential election and learning that 74 million Americans had voted for the losing candidate. And I remember thinking, how can that be? Who are these people? And then I thought, I can't go on believing that so many people in my country are crazy or out to ruin the country or both. I have to meet some of them and find out who they are. So in December of 2020, I started looking into groups who were helping Americans do just that. I found out there are several hundred groups dedicated to helping us back down from hating each other, and it's gotten to that point, hasn't it? There are hundreds of studies about this kind of polarization. Just mention one, a 2019 paper, Lethal Mass Partisanship. Liliana Mason and Nathan Kalmo reported over 42% of both Republicans and Democrats view the opposition as downright evil. How do you think that affects our country? I know how it was starting to affect me. So pretty soon I found a group called Braver Angels. I began going to their workshops and debates. I liked them because they help people talk with each other respectfully. And Braver Angels leaders believed, as I did and do, that polarization is tearing our country apart, and it'll take a grassroots movement to fix it. So I started meeting people who I disagreed with and reached out to some of them. Let me tell you a few things I discovered. I met a man whose grown sons wouldn't let him see his grandchildren because of his political views. Another bought 500 copies of John Steinbeck's Of Mice and Men and gave them out to high school students where it had been banned. Two whose parents had fled countries with oppressive regimes, and they were taught to fear big government. Two women, one in her 20s, the other twice that age, both told me they had relatives or friends fired because of their right-leaning views. A white man told me how hiring and promotion at his company discriminated against him, and he didn't like that. A woman who told me the border crisis is planned to pad voter rolls and give rich people and corporations cheap labor. Most of these folks claim that vote by mail must have a high proportion of fraud. It's so easy to cheat. So who were these people? An engineer, a journalist, a retired hedge fund manager, a retired advertising executive, an Episcopal priest, each with their own life stories, family joys, and family problems. Yeah, their views were different than mine, but When we made the time to listen to each other with respect and curiosity, 9 times out of 10 we walked away feeling better about the world. And my mind didn't change about much. I don't think theirs did. But that's okay, because that's not why we were coming together. We were talking with each other because we feared that if we don't start now, soon we won't be able to. And what kind of society would we have then? So now we're going to hear Teresa's Braver Angel story.
Last year, our congregation engaged in a powerful series of workshops on racial allyship called Dialogues in Love. By the end of Dialogues, I felt both enlightened and inspired, but I had few opportunities to practice the skills I'd learned, except with people whose views were just like mine. Since then, I've participated in eye-opening Braver Angels workshops and webinars, though not nearly as many as Dave has, and I've had some opportunities to practice there. But I'm most grateful to that organization for 3 structured one-on-one red-blue conversations that it arranged for me, a blue, with a red Braver Angels member. Those conversations helped me learn humility and communion, 2 spiritual values that I hold dear. Before we met, I imagined my partner would probably be an older white man from a rural area in the Midwest or South. In other words, a stereotype of the conservative American. Imagine the mindset shift necessary and how humbled I was to realize that I'd fallen into a stereotyping trap when my partner turned out to be Liz, a young Asian professional living in a major metropolitan area on the East Coast. In some ways, Liz holds views that I expected a conservative to hold. For example, she strongly supports the Second Amendment and is generally concerned about the infringement of individuals' rights by the government. She fears that affirmative action in education and employment often results in reverse discrimination. However, her views on other issues surprised me. She believes strongly in universal basic income and spends time volunteering her legal expertise with an organization trying to develop policy in that direction. She supports government programs to improve the welfare of impoverished and disabled families and individuals. Maybe most surprisingly, she was genuinely interested in and open to hearing my views. By the end of our 3rd conversation, I had grown in humility about my own assumptions and prejudices. But there was more, beyond the honest sharing of viewpoints and the mutual listening with curiosity. I also grew in that 2nd spiritual value I mentioned, communion, which means simply intimate fellowship or rapport. Through these conversations, I had gotten to know and really like a warm, interesting, and intelligent person. Liz and I bonded as we exchanged stories about growing up in immigrant families and trying to make our way as women in male-dominated professions. By the end of the 3rd conversations, I felt a deep connection with Liz, something I never expected. I felt that this person, whom I had initially viewed as the other, was part of something that she and I had created, something we had become together. You might call it an I and thou moment, or Ubuntu. Through this growing awareness, I came to a new understanding of our 6th UU principle, a new understanding of what it could really mean to strive toward a world of community, with peace, liberty, and justice for all. And now back to Dave.
So, where do these stories and teachings leave us? I'll speak for myself. First, they remind me how much I stereotype other people, treating them like objects, and how much time is taken up by the realm of things, of it with a capital I rather than thou with a capital T. Martin Buber understands our nature as human beings to be constantly cycling back and forth between relating to it and relating to thou. Buber teaches us that while we can't survive without dealing with the world as objects, we need that some of the time. We can only be fully human when we relate to others as thou, dropping our assumptions and trying to see people for who they are, not who we think they are. Even though we can't stay in that mindset all the time, it's good to be able to go there when we need to. And speaking of stereotyping, I'm reminded that a lot of the time when I stereotype people, I'm imagining what members of my political tribe think about them. In those times, it's like my mind has been captured. Second, Teresa and I have shared what we've experienced by trying to engage with people who believe differently. This greater distance can create a lot of energy, which can then be turned into a force for healing. Speaking for myself, by getting to know people different from me, I feel more whole and at peace, like I belong to the whole human race, not just my tribe. In the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 5, verses 43 to 44, the great teacher, Jesus of Nazareth, says, "You have heard that it was said, 'Love your neighbor and hate your enemy,' but I tell you, love your enemies too." More and more in this country, we seem to view people across the political divide as enemies. Turning to love could not only heal us as individuals, but maybe help us heal the human race as well. The third point, Martin Buber makes it clear that thou is not always another person. Plants and animals, all the millions of other species, all can be thou, not it. So now's the time. If we learn to do this more and better, we might save ourselves, our species, reverse the sixth extinction. If we don't, we're on a path to destroy ourselves along with thousands of species we destroy every year. Stop and think, if we could see each living being as thou, at least some of the time, would we be on this destructive path? I don't think so. So in closing, I'll say that this is why I joined this congregation. What we've been talking about is a feeling, not just a set of ideas. And I sure felt it when Susan and I started coming to services here. Practically every encounter in the congregation, every encounter with you, felt like being part of a beloved community, not just a social club. A community where we're all trying to affirm and promote each other's worth and dignity, regardless of how well we know each other. So I guess what we've been saying in this sermon is what you already know. I hope it's been a useful reminder. It sure has for us. And now a final word on something practical. If I were to ask you, how many organizations do you think are dedicated to bridging the political divide in this country, what would you guess? 50? 200? Actually, there are more than 400 now. And you can learn about them by entering 3 words into your web browser. Listen First Coalition. Amanda, could you please put the link to Listen First into the chat now? But if you're here in the hall or you don't want to copy the link, just remember or write down 3 words, Listen First Coalition. So, we've told you about Braver Angels today. That's only one of these 400 organizations. If you want to learn more about Braver Angels, please contact me. I'm guessing there are tens of thousands, maybe hundreds of thousands of people doing something right now to bridge our political divide, and I hope you join us in joining them. Thank you. And now please rise in body or spirit and join in singing our final hymn, Get Together.
Love is not a song we sing, here's the way we die. You can make the mountains ring, or make the angels cry. For the dawn is on the wing, and you may not know why. Come on, people now, smile on your brother, everybody get together, try to love one another right now. Some may come and some may go, he will surely pass. When the one that left us here returns for us at last, we are but a moment's sunlight fading in the grass. Come on, people now, smile on your brother, everybody get together, try to love one another right now. In the song I sing, you will understand. You hold the key to love and fear, holding a trembling hand. Just one key unlocks them both. It's the God Come on, people now, smile on your brother, everybody get together, try to love one another right now. Come on, people now, smile on your brother, everybody get together, try to love one another right now. Right now, right now.
We have two selections for closing words. First, from Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Love is creative and redemptive. Love builds up and unites. Hate tears down and destroys. The end is reconciliation. The end is redemption. The end is the creation of the beloved community. It is this type of spirit, this type of love that can transform opposers into friends. The second is from Darrell Davis. Quoting the New York Times, he's a black man who hangs out with Ku Klux Klan members and neo-Nazis and chips away at their racism. He has evidence of great success, a collection of KKK robes and hoods given to him by people who he persuaded to abandon the Klan. Here's what Mr. Davis has said. I never set out to convert anyone in the Klan. I just set out to get an answer to my question, how can you hate me when you don't even know me? You can't hate the hate out of a person. You can't beat the hate out of a person. But you can love it out of a person. We spend too much time talking about each other, at each other, past each other, and not enough time talking with each other.